So today Saman is with us. So we are going to start the next part. So that is reading coming from Concept and Reality book. So probably Saman can start from where we have stopped. That is, as far as I can remember, page 21.
Yeah, Bhante, hope you can hear me. Yeah?
Yes.
Yeah. Yes, page 21. We stopped just after the this bit. Shall I read from where we stopped, Bhante?
Yes.
The reference to a range of papancha sagati, in Sariputta's reply is strongly suggestive of the dynamic import of the term in Buddhist psychology. This particular aspect is evident in several other contexts. At Udana, page 77, for instance, we find Buddha giving utterance to the following paean of joy while reflecting on the fact that he has rid himself of concepts characterized by proliferating tendencies of the mind. Attano papancha sanya sanka pahanang pacha vekyamano yassa papancha titi chanatti sandanang palisanya vitivatto. Paligancha vitivatto. Tang nittanahang muning charantang. Tan nittanhang muning charantang nava janati sadeva kopi loko. He in whom ramblings and standing still are not no more, he who has overcome bond and hindrance, that sage, from craving free as he fares onward, the world with its devas contradicts him not. Here, the juxtaposition of papancha, ramblings, with titi, standing still, seems to suggest the primary sense of the term with its dynamic overtones. Metaphorically conceived papancha signifies the ramblings in the realm of ideation, and titi the dormant tendencies of the mind, anusaya, which prompt those ramblings. A verse at Sangyutta Nikaya 471 also conveys this primary sense of papancha, besides pointing to its essential connection with the process of sense perception. Papancha sanya itiri taratnara papanchayanta upayanti sanyino manomayang gehesitancha sabbang panujja nekkamma sitang iriyati. Being endowed with sense perception, human beings whose consciousness is characterized by the prolific tendency approach sense objects mentally by proliferating conceptually, giving up all that is mind-made and is appertaining to household life. He, the recluse, resorts to which is connected with the renunciation. Renunciation. The approach here is a mental one as suggested by the word manomayam, and it is done in the course of mental ramblings. One might also note the significance of the word upayanti, especially in its sense of calling or reckoning. The fact that papancha is usually looked upon as a peculiar mental activity which the worldlings is wont to indulge in becomes evident from sutta in the Saraniya Vagga of the Anguttara Nikaya 3, 292. Sariputta there enumerates 6 types of activity which, if habitually indulged in, anyutta, would hinder the spiritual progress of a monk. Idauso bhikkhu kammaramo hoti
Kammaramo. Kammaramo hoti kammarato.
kammaramo hoti kammarato kammaramatang anuyutto. Bassaramo hoti bassarato bassaramatang anuyutto. Niddaramo hoti niddarato niddaramatang anuyutto. Sanganikaramo hoti sanganikarato sanganikaramatang anuyutto. Sansaggaramo hoti sansaggarato sansaggaramatang anuyutto. Papancharamo hoti papancharato papancharamatang anuyutto. Evanko auso bhikkhu tata viharang kappeti. Yata viharang kappayato na baddikang maranang hoti na baddika kalakiriya. Ayang vuccatavuso bhikkhu sakkaya bhirato na pahasi sakkayang samma dukkassa anatta kiriyayati.
Anta kiriyayati.
Anta kiriyayati. Herein, brethren, a monk finds delight in worldly activity, is delighted in worldly activity, gets engrossed in the delight of worldly activity. So too, of talk, sleep, company, companionship, and prolific conceptualization, finding delight in each. He is delighted with each and gets engrossed in the delight of each. And thus, brethren, the more he so fashions his life, the more he fashions it to a woeful death, a woeful fate, and of this monk it is said, he is greatly delighted in selfhood. He has not got rid of selfhood for the utter ending of all. No,
ill.
Ending of ill.
Ending of ill, yes.
Other ending of ill. The last in the list, papancha, is obviously reckoned the most important, so much so that the ethical significance is summed up in a couplet at the end of the sutta. Yo papanchang anuyutto, papanchabhirato mago, viradai so nibbanang, yogakkemang anuttarang.
Yeah, yogakkemang anuttarang.
Yogakkemang anuttarang. Yocha papancha hitvana.
Yocha papanchang
hitvana. Nippapancha paterato. Aragai so nibbanang. Arada iso nibbanang. Yogakkemang anuttarang. The fool who indulges in and delights in prolific conceptualization is far removed from Nibbana, the incomparable freedom of bondage. He who, having given up such conceptualization, delights in the path to non-proliferation, he attains to Nibbana, the incomparable freedom of bondage.
Yeah, so we'll stop here. So basically, there are very interesting areas now we are going through. We can start with, say, what Venerable Sariputta mentioned in this particular sutta, which is actually coming in the Baddaka Sutta, Anguttara Nikaya, Saraniya Vagga. So there, Venerable Sariputta mentioned about how to have a good death and how not to have a good death. And here, what Jnanananda Thero has extracted is the opposite part, that is how not to have a good death. On the other hand, how one can have a miserable death, where his next birth going to be fairly miserable. So there are 5 or rather 6 points highlighted here. Kammaramo hoti kammarato, kammaramatang anuyutto, bassaramo hoti bassarato, bassaramatang anuyutto, niddaramo hoti niddarato, sanganikaramo hoti, then sansaggaramo hoti, then papancharamo hoti. So these are the 6 points. So if we it will explain these things. Kamma Ramo Hoti. Now, we have an attitude of sometimes start various tasks one after the other. You want to finish one task, and while you are completing that, almost completing that, you now think of another task. While you are continuing that particular task, now you are thinking of another task. When you are continuing that, you are thinking of another task. So you have no time at all for yourself, or you have no time at all for your spiritual growth, because you have a list of tasks. Your to-do list is very long, and many aligned tasks are there. So you are so engaged with those activities. And while engaged with those activities, probably you can remember how well that you have done a particular task, how well you are doing currently, and how well you can do a future task, and how you didn't do properly another task, and probably you are a little afraid of another task which is going to happen in the future. So all these tasks, our assignments, can give us a presence of ourselves, presence of a self, presence of myself. Okay, I am the one did that task. I am the one who did it properly. I am the best worker. I am the best performer. I am the best professional. I am the best doctor. I am the best engineer. I am the best artist. So likewise, so we can build ourselves using all these activities what we do. Maybe using our profession, maybe using our task, assigned task, our responsibilities, our skills. So these are another area to develop Sakkaya Ditthi. So where Sakkaya Bhirato, so that particular person always developing a selfhood, developing a self-appropriation, self-referencing, or self-personality, using all the different tasks that he has accomplished. So he is so concerned about the activities, so concerned about his assigned task. And sometimes people are workaholistic, and they are continuously working, and even at home they are so concerned about their work. So this is how they occupy their mind. So they have something to do every time, and mind has no rest, and you yourself has no rest. You have no time to involve with your children or your husband, your wife, your parents, or whoever, because you are so busy. Many activities are there. Your to-do list is so long. So you are very much like Kamma Ramo Hoti. And then Buddha say Nidda Ramo Hoti. Another person is so concerned about the sleep. In the morning after the breakfast, you want to have a nap. And probably while having a nap, you fall asleep. And then you have the lunch time. So after the lunch, you feel heavy and you want to have a nap. And that's another time that you fall asleep. Probably at night, you may have the dinner, and then of course you have to sleep. So most of the time you are so much engaged with sleeping, and sleeping becomes the main activity of your life. So that's another group of people who are fond of sleeping. So sleeping is their main theme. So that is how they enjoy themselves. And very much like a kind of a inactive state of mind is what they are attached with. And always they want to sleep. That's another say wrong way of leading our life. And then Buddha mentioned Sanganika Ramo Hoti. So that means you prefer company. You want to have many people. You want to have your colleagues. You want to have your team members, your family members always with you. And without them, you can't live. You feel lonely, and you always want to have your friends close by. Nowadays, we have many methods for that. You have WhatsApp group, you have your Facebook, and many different techniques are there, so that you are maintaining a companionship. Always engage with their activities. Always you are showing your presence. You get many likes, and so they are appreciating your presence. They are appreciating you being a member of this particular society, a particular team, particular group. So you have a great team. So you are a team member, and you need to be in that team always. You can't survive otherwise. So this kind of mentality, so dependent on the others, and very much like you closely associate so many others. You can't lead an independent life. You are so dependent and always have so much of engagements because of others' association, and no rest for yourself, no time to meditate or for your own spiritual growth, because so many commitments are there because you have so many friends, so many associates. So that's another group of people which is mentioned in this sutta. Sanganikārāmo hoti. And then Sansaggarāmo hoti. Among this particular group, there may be a certain few people that you are extremely closely associating. You are maintaining an intimate relationship, kind of an intimacy. Without them, you can't even eat. Without them, you can't go for a walk. Without them, you can't go to a little bit of enjoyment. So they are a must in your life. You are waiting them to come to have your lunch. You are waiting for them to go on a particular place. So they are the ones occupy your mind. Whenever your mind has nothing particular to think, okay, they are there so that you can think. So they are the main occupants of your mind. So you are completely attached to them, completely bound by them, fully dependent on them. Even their little activity disturb you, and even their little achievement really uplift you, elate your mindset. So you are so dependent on a few people, and that is where you are Sansaggarāmo hoti. So you have a very close relationship with someone and intimate relationship with someone, and you are so attached to that person, one or two, whoever. So that's another group of people. And then Buddha mentioned the last one, Papañcarāmo hoti papañcarato. So that is where you prefer conceptual proliferation. You are a thinker. You overthink. Even about a little activity, you overthink. Think in one direction, think in another direction, think with respect to the past, think with respect to the future, think with respect to vision, audition, etc., etc. So likewise, thinking is your main job. So you take your time to spend fairly on overthinking. Again and again, many thoughts are coming to your mind. Sometimes rumination, and sometimes conceptual proliferation. In many different directions you are thinking, and you are habituated to that. You could be, if you are maintaining a relationship, so that relationship overwhelmed by too much thinking. You might become emotional, you might become even romantic, you might become so sensible, you may be even crying, then you can become even depressed because you are a heavy thinker. Too much thinking, overthinking is there. So the conceptual proliferation is there. So here the advice is, if you are going through any of these kind of lifestyles, when Sariputta mentioned, the more he so fashion his life, the more he fashions it to a woeful death. Unfortunately, it can end up with a woeful death. Suppose that you have so many tasks lined up, but all of a sudden you got a cancer, you got a terminal disease, and you have to die, but with a lot of unfinished jobs. You keep on worrying about them, you keep on bothering about them, and even during the death moment you are thinking about them, you are so occupied with all that. So you could reborn in a woeful state. On the other hand, Buddha mentioned about the asleep. So you are not an active, you are not keeping your mind active, so much lethargic, so much of laziness, drowsiness. So that is also not an advisable state. So again, it will lead to a woeful death. On the other hand, say you are with so much of companions, and that also can lead to a miserable death because you expect that companionship, you expect those fellows to be with you, your friends and all to be with you, but sometimes they can't come, you get upset, you get feel depressed, and now you have to leave them during your death time. So whoever the loved ones, whoever your affectionate ones, you have to leave them. So you find it quite difficult because you are so attached to them. You start crying, you start weeping because you can't leave them. Now you are going to die. So therefore you are going to have a woeful death, because you have so much of attachment, so much of intimate relationships, so that going to cause a lot of suffering during the death moment. And then Buddha discuss, that is here explained by the Venerable Sariputta, he further discuss about the papanchara. So if the mind is occupied with so much of thinking, so that is not a effective mind, that is not a favorable mind. Don't know at the death moment to which direction this mind would incline towards. It might think about some past activity. It might think about some kind of imagination. It might think about some futuristic activity, some of your plans. It might think about one of your relationship. It might think about maybe an incident what has happened during some time ago. So likewise, there are many possibilities available for you to think. So mind is jumping from this to that, and there could be a random, that kind of a stream going on during the death moment, could have a woeful death. So these are, in a way, you can understand, so extremely important areas. So how are we leading our life? So as Venerable Jnanananda Thero highlights here, the last point is the most crucial one. So in this particular sutta, therefore 2 verses were added with respect to papancha. Yo papanchang anuyutto papanchabirato magu viradayi so nibbanang yogakkemang anuttara. The fool who indulges in and delights in prolific conceptualization is far away from nibbana, or far removed from nibbana, the incomparable freedom from bondage. So incomparable freedom from bondage is the nibbana. Yogakkemang anuttara. So different bondages are there. We are stuck in them, completely hooked up with them. So the complete freedom is nothing but nibbana. But here, so you are too much involved, indulgent in the defilements, in this different papancha, conceptual proliferation. So then you are actually far away from nibbana, far away from this incomparable freedom, because mind is trapped, mind is burdened, mind is mixed with so much of thinking. On the other hand, yochamo panchang hitvana nippapancha pate ratu aradayi so nibbanam yogakkemang anuttara. So here he adds, yocha papanchang hitvana, the one who has given up such proliferations. As much as possible, he is practicing himself by abandoning proliferation, minimizing proliferation. He may be advising to himself, don't proliferate, don't think too much, don't think right now. It's not necessary to think. I have already done that task. It's done. Don't think about it now. So likewise, you are advising yourself, restraining yourself more and more. Because one might not be able to immediately silence the mind. Even though you have practiced vipassana, even though you have certain insights, even though you understand, okay, no point of thinking, there may be a tendency to think in the mind. But once you notice that, once you recognize that, it is your responsibility, it is our responsibility to slowly keep it silent, make it silent, abandon that proliferation, minimize that proliferating tendency. And suppose that that is the path that one has taken. Yochama panchang hitvana. So he has given up conceptualization. Instead, he delights in nippa panchapati. He delights in, non-proliferation, where mind cools down, where mind relaxing, mind calms down, mind is taking a rest. Mind is in complete silence, if possible, sometimes. So you have tasted that freedom. You have tasted the freedom of silence. Internally, there are no any ripples in the mind. Internally, there are no thoughts. There is no any agitation. There is no any friction. There are no any kind of chattering. Complete inner silence. So one has tasted that. So he has inclination towards that. Nippapancha pathe ratu. So he has an inclination towards this non-proliferation path. Probably, again, a proliferation can happen, but quickly he recognizes it, abandons it, removes it, again keep the mind quiet. So quietude of the mind, calm state of the mind, tranquility of the mind, silence of the mind. That is his path that he appreciates. That is the path he is leading towards. So Buddha mentioned, when Sariputta mentioned, Aradai so Nibbana, Yoga Khemang Anutara. Now he is actually inviting Nibbana. He appreciates the state of Nibbana. So this is how he opens his mind for Nibbana. It's calming down, cooling down, relaxing, tranquilizing. So he's calming down his mind. So he's tranquilizing his mind, removing all the unnecessary conceptual proliferation. So he's inviting Nibbana. So this is so beautiful. So why is Sariputta, whenever Sariputta has given such a kind of a, say, profound motivation towards non-proliferation. And here in the section that we started today, Buddha himself is make a udana when he understood that he himself has abandoned conceptual proliferation. So attano papancha sanya sankha pahanang pachavikkamano. So after Buddha became fully enlightened, so one interesting characteristic he found in himself, or he found in his mind, is that non-proliferation. Mind is not getting to any kind of a proliferation. That is a characteristic of the Buddha. Papanchabhirata paja nippapancha tathagata. In the Dhammapada, Buddha mentioned, okay, the majority, the typical worldlings are indulgent in the papancha. They engross in papancha. So they prefer to maintain their mind in too much thinking, proliferation, or rumination. So that is their behavior. But the Buddha, papanchabhirata paja nippapancha tathagata. The Buddhas are nippapancha. So they are free from papancha, and their minds are established in non-proliferation. So he see this property in his mind. So he make a udana, kind of an utterance, telling yassa papancha titidanatti sandhanang paligancha viti vattu tang nittanham muning charantam nava janati sadevakopi loko. He in whom ramblings and standing still are no more. He who has overcome bond and hindrance, that sage, from craving free, as he fares onward, the world with its devas contradicts him not. So basically, various ramblings, various papancha, various proliferations are not available in him. And on the other hand, in order for prapancha to initiate, there is a latent tendency available in the mind. Even that is not there. That is what mentioned here, indicated here as titi chanatti. The word titi here indicates the latent tendency, anusaya. So when anusaya is there could be a tendency to proliferate. But when there is no anusaya, even that is abandoned, when the mind is completely free from latent tendencies, so that avoids the mind get on to any kind of a conceptual proliferation. So till our minds have some amount of latent tendencies, so it initiates a kind of a proliferation. It can initiate a certain proliferation. But if one is able to completely uproot latent tendencies, so then his mind is completely free from conceptual proliferation as well. So there's a very interesting relationship highlighted here. So say for example, asmimana is one root cause for prapancha. So asmiti. So when you think, okay, here I am here, I am so and so. So I'm a person, I'm a man, I'm a woman, I'm a doctor, I'm an engineer, I'm a teacher, I'm a president. So whoever, whatever you think like, so actually you can understand that all promotes thinking. Even a kind of a comparison between yourself and another person, and that promotes thinking. So all that asmimana, all that conceit, personality view, all that actually promotes thinking, proliferation. But when such latent tendencies are completely uprooted, then it doesn't initiate any kind of papancha, conceptual proliferation, or conceiving. Sandhanam paligancha viti vattu. And there are no bonds, there are no hindrances. His mind is completely freed, completely opened. Nittanham, there is no craving. And that is how he is faring in the life. So then devas, humans, and they have no problem with him because he has no conflicts at all with anyone. Because one may get on to a kind of a conflict, get on to a kind of an argument because he has certain tendency in the mind. Various perceptions are there. So one can get on to argument. But when there is no such thing, so he is freely moving. Others have no friction with him. So, papancha sanya itaritarana. Papancha yanta upayanti sanyino. Manomayam gehasitancha sabbam. Panucca nekhamma sitang iriyati. So further, Venerable Jnananda Thero has highlighted, being endowed with sense perception. Human beings whose consciousness is characterized by the prolific tendency approach sense objects by proliferating conceptually, giving up all that is mind-made and is appertaining to household life. He, the recluse, resorts to that which is connected with renunciation. So basically, so one area of renunciation is this minimizing of papancha. So gehasita sarasankappa means that with respect to lay life, with respect to household life, we have so many things to think, we have so many things to attach with, we have so many obligations, responsibilities, relationships, family members, friends, colleagues, co-workers, politicians, many things are there. But the renunciant slowly abandons all that. He is happy with his seclusion, his solitude. So basically, he is minimizing all that thinking. He is minimizing conceptual proliferation. He is advising himself, restraining himself. So that is his direction. So we can see that in this particular chapter, Jnananda Thero has taken few more areas to highlight the non-proliferation, to highlight the Nippapancha path, and to appreciate that and guide us or motivate us to enjoy that silence, enjoy that inner listening or inner silence, so that you are no more too much thinking and burdening your mind, rather you are enjoying the silence. You become a silent observer. You become someone who is calm, who is tranquil, not agitated, not burning with any kind of attention. So you are in a peace, you are at peace. So this is a very interesting area that highlighted here. So with that, I like to conclude today's Dhamma sermon. Now I like to open the session for questions.
Today.
How many questions, Chamila?
8 questions.
Okay.
Starting with the first question. Question number 1 of 8. This is on the Dhamma sermon. Dear Bhante, regarding the indeterminate questions highlighted during the last Dhamma sermon, is the existence of an outside materialistic world is one of the undetermined questions? I guess not, since there are multiple explanations around Nama and Rupa and the interplay. However, there are some views we hear that there is no realistic world, but everything is mind-made and hypothetical. Appreciate if Bhante can shed some lights on this, as this can be relevant to your explanation of concept and reality. With metta. That's the end of the question.
Yeah, actually in the undeterministic, those 10 points, dasa avyakata vattu. So one thing is anantang antavaloko or anantavaloko. So antavaloko means whether the world is finite. Anantavaloko is the world is infinite. So if someone is asking from you, Is the world to be finite? That here the universe, we can say the universe is finite, or the universe is infinite. So if we give any kind of an answer, we can get trapped. And as you said, by the way, you're asking a different question. Is there any parallel world? Sometimes people are talking about parallel worlds. Parallel to, say, human realm, is there another parallel world at some other galaxy, some other world system? So all that. So by the way, there may be various realms, there may be various other planets, and there may be human-like places. I don't know. I mean, the point is that we are spending fair amount of time thinking about this, and this is a huge area that we are thinking. And so there Buddha mentioned, or rather warns, we might even go crazy by thinking. Loka Vishaya Achintya. So with respect to the worldly systems, Buddha did not encourage us to think. It's very much like Achintya. It's unthinkable. You can't comprehend them. So that's why he discouraged thinking about the world systems. He discouraged thinking about all the karma, because it's a vast area, incomprehensible area. So that's why, I mean, thinking about these things is kind of a waste of time. So as we discussed last time, I think, say when someone is trapped somewhere, when you are hit by an arrow, so the best thing to do is to remove it before you die. Now we have enough suffering, now we have enough problems, how to overcome that suffering and free ourselves. I mean, if we spend too much time in experimenting and looking at here and there and, finding out different world systems, so then we may have wasted our time. So we can get into the next question, Chamila.
Question number 2 of 8. This is a general question. Dear Bhante, I am very grateful to you for explaining the Dhamma in great detail to me. Please clarify this aspect of Kammatthana to me. My interest in Kasina meditation arose spontaneously as a result of my artistic skills in painting. I am versant in Anapanasati Bhavanava, but as you advised, commenced keeping my attention focused on all daily activities. Where in the suttas does Buddha advise widening the scope of the Kammatthana? As I have understood, Kammatthana are the focal points to start meditation, i.e., the doorways towards Nibbana. And initially, in the process of meditation, they act like tethering poles to keep the thoughts contained. Does each such doorway lead through different paths towards the ultimate goal? And do they offer acquisition of varying, different skills and qualities in the process? I have found that focusing on any color can result in calming the mind, and not just the 4 colors, red, yellow, blue, and white. Historically, why were there these 4 colors chosen? Is it due to convention by early meditators? Is Kasina meditation suitable for us in the Theravada tradition? Or is it limited to Mahayana practice? I find the repetitive process of using the brush, pencil, crayon, etc., particularly for abstract art, the necessary focus, and the meditation has not much to do with color at all. Please clarify how this compares with what is traditionally described as Kasina meditation. Theruvan Saranai. That is the end of the question.
Yeah. So actually in the Theravada tradition also 10 kasinas are explained. If you refer Visuddhimagga, the path of purification, there are a lot of information about the kasina meditation. And 4 colors selected and 4 primary elements selected, and then space and the light also selected as the kasina. The 4 colors are red, blue, yellow, and white. Lohita, Odata, what's that? Anyway, the white color kasina, Odata kasina, yellow color kasina, then the blue color kasina. So likewise, 4 colors are there. So I don't know why they have selected only those 4 colors. So as you pointed out, I mean, any color could be used. So once you are familiarized with the technique, so any color can be used. And sometimes they have used even, say, flowers to recognize a particular color. And sometimes they have used certain object to recognize colors. Now, say, for example, if you are practicing Asubha Bhavana or 32 parts of the body, and certain parts have different colors. Actually, Abhibhayatana Sutta, I think, is the one discussing about the kasina. So there are actually various body parts are taken to establish our mind onto a particular color. Say, for example, if you are referring the skull, skull is fairly white color. Particularly if you look at the back side of the skull, it's a fairly flat and white color. So white color kasina can be taken from the skull. And on the other hand, if you refer the hair, head hair, so head hair is blackened, but from that one can take the blue kasina. That's another kasina. And again, if you take blood, so blood is red color, and from there you can extract the red color kasina. And you can take the urine. Urine could be taken as the yellow kasina by extracting its yellow color. So likewise, the bodily parts, bodily components can be taken to extract different colors. That's because that would be easy, because rather than looking at outside, while your attention is fairly concentrated onto various bodily parts, so you are fairly confined towards the body, so your attention is fairly concentrated. So rather than now you change your attention to entirely external object, now rather you take a particular body part like skull and extract white color from that. Now you are continuing your practice with that white color. You abandon all the different materialistic signs. Rather, now you simply have very flat white color, white color, white color. Now you condition your mind, white color, and you can further expand it to the whole universe, and you expand the white kasina so that you become completely absorbed to that white kasina. So even in the Theravada tradition, kasinas are explained. But as I said last time, so kasina bhavana has to be done fairly under a teacher, because it is not encouraged to do in an ad hoc manner, because we have to do it carefully. If not, one can even go crazy, because there's a huge expansion, huge opening, say kind of an uplifting happen in the mind. And it can be sometimes unbearable, and sometimes you might fall asleep at night even, because the mind has completely wide open, completely kind of waken up. So your typical behavior could change if you are not properly managing it, handling it. So therefore, as an advice, I would say practicing kasina without a teacher is not advisable. Anyway, these things are explained in the books like Visuddhimagga. Kasinas are explained, Kasi Bhavana are explained. I hope this answer is enough.
Question number 3 of 8, this mindful walking. Dear Bhante, during the walking practice, I tend to focus rigidly on the left and right source and try to keep the mind continuously on the observations. Half of the walking time, I do the noting as left and right until the mind is completely following the walking process. Time to time, I have heard Bhante's advice to relax the attention so that at some point it will be possible to start watching the mind. However, due to the rigid practice, I am unable to do it after many years of effort. Much merits if you can give some guidance on how one can smoothly transition to observing the mind, and if it is possible to do while walking. Much merits for your valuable service. That's the end of the question.
Yeah, it is definitely possible while walking to observe the mind. let it happen naturally. So there may be a certain glimpse happening in you. That's why you are asking this question. So now the mind could be ready to observe itself. It could be a little tricky at the beginning because you may be even thinking too much about it. So how to look at the mind from the mind. So for you, it's a puzzle. But mind would do that. Don't worry about it. Now, say, for example, you are walking. While walking, you are keeping your attention on various sensations and you recognize hardness, softness, various, say, the vibrations, sensations, different things are there. So you are observing. Assume that all of a sudden you got a lustful thought. So you may recognize that lustful thought. There's a lustful thought. And once you recognize that, probably it has gone. But typically, a lustful thought once arisen, probably you get caught to it. But at that level, even though there was a lustful thought, you are aware of it, you have clearly seen it. Since you are clearly comprehending it, it didn't overwhelm you. Rather, it has simply passed away. It has simply disappeared. So likewise, these are the very interesting areas actually you are understanding in your progress. I didn't know much about Chittanupassana. I was thinking it is really a difficult task. But while I am walking, I look at the mind. There was a lustful thought. Or rather than I looked at the mind, I felt that there's a lustful thought. I understood that there's a lustful thought. I recognized there was a lustful thought. I understood that. And it is a mere lustful thought. It is not that I am lustful character. I am really a bad character because there are lustful thoughts. Rather, there is a lustful thought. So when you are putting it in the proper perspective, then that lustful thought has disappeared. Simple as that. So now you are dealing with Chittanupassana. So therefore, one can start with Kayanupassana and develop the necessary skills like sharpening mindfulness, sharpening clear comprehension. And when you are ready, now even mind may automatically look at itself. And you may feel the different thoughts available in your mind, different intentions available in your mind. And you may even feel it. So therefore, don't take it too serious, thinking it's a very difficult task. Rather, let it happen naturally. You don't need to purposely change the schedule. Rather, let it mature slowly, so that naturally mind may be aware of various thoughts available in the mind and slowly you abandon them rather than getting victimized to them. Okay, Chamila.
Question number 4 of 9. This is a Dhamma sermon question. Dear Bhante, thank you for this session and much merits for your guidance. Now I have some understanding of the conceptual proliferation and prapancha, which I was never aware of. Can you please explain how we can use this knowledge when observing the mind? Can this be used to categorize thoughts similar to what is given in Vitakka Santana Sutta and understand how mind works? With metta, that's the end of the question.
Yeah, definitely. So one easy area is that recognize 3 categories of papancha. Main 3 categories, tanha, ditthi, mana. So when certain stream of thoughts are going on, probably you can step back and see which type of category of thoughts are going on. Assume that there are many lustful thoughts are going on. Of course, definitely it could be a tanha category. So tanha, craving part, sensual desire part is the main characteristic in that area. Suppose that you are comparing yourself with another person and you are putting yourself on the pedestal and you are looking down the other person. Many thoughts are coming on. So that's the mana related, conceit related thoughts. And you take a stand on one particular view and you criticize someone else's view, someone else's idea, and many thoughts are going on how to overcome their idea, how to uplift your idea, how to win your idea. So that is the view related, papancha. So likewise, so the knowledge can be used to little analyze our thinking. So when we are looking like that, this papancha can't go long. So that should be the advantage. Now, we are learning all that to overcome papancha, to abandon papancha. And this is not a simple intellectual analysis. And we should not only limit this to an intellectual analysis. Rather, practically, as you have suggested, when we are using it properly during our meditation, the advantage is quickly we should be able to abandon papancha. Quickly we should be able to minimize overthinking, rumination, and quickly we should be able to calm down, relax, tranquilize the mind. Try to use all this knowledge in many different ways so that quickly you are relaxing yourself, calming down yourself, tranquilizing yourself, freeing the mind from overthinking so that it start enjoying the inner silence. Yeah.
Question number 5 of 9, this mindful sitting. Dear Venerable Sir, during the guided meditation session, I had sensations in different parts of the body simultaneously, with my attention to abdominals rising and falling. When my mind runs around every sensation, but my main focus was... I'll start again. Dear Venerable Sir, during the guided meditation session, I had sensations in different parts of the body simultaneously with my attention to abdominal rising and falling. Then my mind runs around every sensation, but my main focus was to rising and falling. What is your advice for me when this kind of situation arises? With metta. That's the end of the question.
Yeah. So, I mean, if it is running around, that means it could be a little distraction as well. But purposely, you can start paying your attention to a particular sensation, not the rising and falling. You can select kind of a predominant kind of a sensation and try to see what you can learn from that. Because sometimes when we are continuing with rising and falling, so it is capable of developing the skill. It is producing sharp mindfulness. It is producing clear comprehension and full body awareness, so that you now capable of understanding various sensations available throughout the body and select one of them, most prominent one or easy one, whatever you prefer, and keep your attention there. Again and again, you keep your attention there. Again and again, keep your attention there. Then your mind get concentrated there to this new sensation. And that becomes your experiment now. That becomes your field of investigation now. Now look at what is going on there. Now rising and falling is not the primary object, but rather this new sensation become your primary object. And you are in Dhatu Manasikara. Basically, you are in either Dhatu Manasikara or you are in Vedananupasana, observing various feelings. So no harm in that. So that is a good practice. And then assume that that particular sensation disappeared, but at another place, there's a new sensation available. You jump to that and start looking at that. So by observing that, you get a thorough understanding. So because understanding all this, or rather observing, investigating all these different sensations, building up a lot of wisdom in the mind. So that is quite helpful. So in Dhatu Manasikara or in Vedananupasana, so this is the approach we have to take. We may be using rising and falling as the primary object, true. But with the knowledge, with the capacity, with the skill that we have developed through that, can be used throughout the body to further sharpen our wisdom. And it could be very interesting rather than simply waiting at the rising and falling. This could be interesting because mind might want to little bit actively participate or actively involve in this investigation. So at that time, having some raw material for the mind would be very useful. So mind may be doing it happily even. I mean, you don't need to sometimes say purposely take your attention to a particular object, but rather mind, once he understand the methodology, it may quickly recognize different sensations and quickly start observing them, investigating them. Once it disappeared, it will go to another sensation, start recognizing them, start investigating them. So it becomes more and more kind of an automatic process. So mind become more a professional kind of, mind become more attuned towards doing that. So it will be more comfortable for you then your involvement become less and less, but mind has understood the art. Now it is continuing doing that.
Question number 6 of 9. This is a Dhammasaman question. Dear Bhante, is prapancha or conceptual proliferation active and impact one's last moment? Or is it just the last thoughts based on one's karma? With metta, that is the end of the question.
So now, according to this sutta, so I mean, during the, not during the last moment, we need to think about how we were using our lifetime before the last moment. So if we are, a character thinking too much and crying, worrying, fantasizing, and all that, so that is the same tendency we are carrying forward. So during the death moment, we don't know the fellow what would think, because this is like a mad monkey jumping from this stream to that stream, thinking this and that. It's a complete ad hoc. So it's a completely, unpredictable what's going to happen at the death moment. So therefore, it's a very vulnerable state. So that's why it's a risk, a great risk is there. So therefore, don't think about the last moment. Just try to restrain the mind, minimize conceptual proliferation. Then we are in a good shape.
Question number 7 of 9. Everybody wrote proliferation today. I can't read it. Question number 7 of 9. Dear Venerable Bhante, what is the meaning of non-proliferation? Is that no situvili or continuous situvili? Coming but not going behind them. That's the end of the question.
So actually non-proliferation, what we call as nippapancha, is a synonym for nibbana. It's so profound. You can understand. So Buddha has given a thorough emphasis on nippapancha. Nippapancha is a synonym for nibbana. You can refer, there is a Samyutta Nikaya, Asankata Samyutta. There are 33 names given for nibbana, synonyms given for nibbana. One name is nippapancha. Complete freedom from papancha. So if the mind, that's why in this Venerable Sariputta quite rightly mentioned there, Yochapa panchang hitwana nippapancha pathe ratu aradayiso nibbanang yoga kemang anuttara. So more you calm down yourself, more you minimize your unnecessary thinking, overthinking, rumination, conceptualization, all that. So you are approaching nibbana. Your mind become more relaxed, very, very quiet, very calm, very cool. So you are in nibbana. So basically, so in that sense we can say, so when someone is in the unattached state of mind, there are no attachment to various forms, no attachment to various feelings, no attachment to various sanya, perceptions, and there are no thoughts even, and all the thoughts have disappeared. So that's why the mind has become silent. Therefore, the silence of mind is something Buddha has encouraged. Now, when Buddha advising the monks, so what to do when they have come together, when they are in a particular gathering? Either Dhammiva Kata or Ariyova Tunhi Bhava. So either you have to do a kind of a good discussion, Dhamma discussion, or you need to maintain silence. Does that silence merely mean that you are not talking, or you are maintaining inner silence? So we can give a depth to that statement, thinking that it's not merely stopping the chattering, rather he may be encouraging even to minimize papancha, so that you are enjoying the inner silence. And therefore, nippapancha state is something that we have to aspire to have, so that, I mean, more and more we may be familiarizing with it. So probably you may understand with various other aspects of vipassana, because the silent mind is more productive mind. It is not a very lethargic, boring kind of mind. Silent mind is an active mind.
Question number 8 of 9. Ante, we've just gone over time. We have 2 more questions.
Okay, we'll quickly go through. Yeah.
Okay, sir. So question number 8 of 9. This is a general question. Dear sir, now I can understand very quickly when bad, unnecessary concepts come to my mind, and immediately I advise my mind not to bring bad stuff to me. But it's very difficult to
Right.
stop bad concepts coming. Sometimes I feel tired advising, and I get cranky with me. Hope my mind will understand me gradually and help not to bring bad concepts. Much merits for your guidance. That's the end of the question.
Yes, definitely. So that is how we have to restrain ourselves, advise ourselves. That's why exactly that is how explained in the Mulapariyaya Sutta. So how a trainee is training oneself. So even though now we understand, okay, conceptual proliferation is a harmful thing, that it is harmful to myself, harmful to the others, but still mind tends to proliferate, mind tends to ruminate. We need to recognize it and slowly try to abandon it, minimize it. So Vitakka Santana Sutta is merely for that. So what are the possibilities available to overcome papancha that we'll discuss future. So what are the potential say methods available to overcome papancha? So what you are doing is quite correct. So advise yourself, warn yourself, don't bring unnecessary thoughts, don't bring unnecessary concepts, don't bring unnecessary images. So just keep the mind quiet, calm, relaxed, tranquil, pure. Then we are trying our best. But by the way, the methods that we are using become more and more effortless as we are growing. So at the beginning, it may be very difficult. We are using the body to distract the mind so that we are not thinking. We are simply paying attention to the body as a reference, as a refuge. That is one option. And later we start directly confronting the mind, recognizing various thoughts available in the mind. And probably we may be trying to even suppress thoughts effortfully. So that becomes little kind of a tense situation, and you feel a little uncomfortable, you feel burdened, you feel little tired. But as we are continuing further and further, so your mindfulness become more and more powerful, your comprehension become more and more powerful. So the thoughts become more and more weaker, so that you can recognize thoughts at their inception during their early stages. So as a result of that, you may not have a huge struggle, rather simply by looking at it may be enough for them to go away. So likewise, the process become more and more easier as we progress.
Question number 9 of 9. This is the last question. This is a Dhammasaman question. Swamin Wahanse, according to one point you mentioned, when someone has attachment to one person, could this be our spouse, parents, children, or even a religious priest, which could hinder our path to Nibbana? With metta, that's the end of the question.
It could be, depending on how we approach. Now, say, for example, during the death moment, suppose that we remember the Buddha, or remember a good monk who has renunciated, who has teach us the Dhamma, and etc. So it can cause some good memory and say some pleasant feelings, a lot of saddha, maybe a lot of gratitude, and all that could be a more positive, might create a more positive atmosphere in the mind. But anyway, we are dealing with a conceptual level, because we have a person, we have an individual, so that has certain amount of avidya, ignorance. So anyway, if we get into any kind of other individuals, say you start worrying about your children, worrying about your parents, worrying about your husband, worrying about your wife, so then it's a completely different story, because we have so much of attachment, and I'm worried about what's going to happen to them after my death. Then that is not a favorable way to die.
So that's the end of the questions today. We've gone over time as well, so we will end the program. To end the program, I would first like to pass our merits and thank Bhante for his valuable time. To all the supporters of this program, both seen and unseen, and to the participants for joining today to practice and share their questions. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Thero Saranai.
Yeah, Thero Saranai.
Sadhu.